Listen closely, because this is one of those stories that makes you sit back, lower the volume around you, and say, wait, what? Because what I'm about to tell you was never meant to reach us. It wasn't meant to be screenshotted, leaked, whispered, or stitched together by fans at 3 a.m. And once you hear it, you're never going to watch 90 Day Fiancé the same way again. It started with a single message. Not a trailer, not a promo, a message. From someone who claimed they worked behind the scenes. Someone who said, there are things you don't know. Things they begged us not to talk about. At first, I didn't believe it. Most people wouldn't. But then came the details. Too specific, too raw, too painful to be fake. And if even half of this is true, then what producers didn't want fans to know might be the most disturbing secret this franchise has ever buried. I know what you're thinking right now. Another rumor, another fake leak, another clickbait headline. I get it. I've watched this show from the beginning, just like you. I've laughed at the awkward silences, cringed at the airport fights, cried during the weddings that actually felt real. This show mattered to people. It still does. That's why this hurts. So before we go any further, let me say this honestly, from one fan to another. If you've ever felt emotionally invested in these couples, if you've ever defended one of them online, if you've ever believed what you were seeing was raw and real, you might want to sit down. And hey, if you value stories like this, the kind that don't come from press releases or PR damage control, the kind that actually respects your intelligence, take a second to subscribe. Not because I'm asking for numbers, but because this community deserves the truth when nobody else will say it out loud. Now let me tell you how this all really started. Before the fame, before the Instagram followers, before the sponsored posts and paid interviews, most of these cast members were just regular people with messy lives and big hopes. Some were broke, some were lonely, some were running from past mistakes, and some truly believed love could save them. Producers knew that. They didn't just cast couples. They cast pain. They cast insecurity. They cast desperation. One former crew member described the casting process as less about love and more about pressure points. What are they hiding? What are they scared of? What secret would absolutely destroy them if it came out on camera? That's the first layer nobody talks about. Couples were encouraged, quietly, off camera, to save certain conversations for filming. Arguments that already happened were recreated. Apologies were delayed on purpose. One insider said, resolution doesn't make good TV. Breakdown does. And here's where it gets darker. Some cast members begged to stop filming during emotional breakdowns. Not dramatic tantrums. Real moments. Panic attacks. Trauma responses. The cameras didn't stop. One leaked production note literally said, keep rolling. This is the moment. Fans always wondered why certain scenes felt uncomfortable to watch. Why some tears didn't feel performative, but painful. Now we know why, and social media felt it immediately when whispers started spreading. TikTok lit up first. Clips slowed down. Background audio isolated. People noticing cast members mouthing, please stop, under their breath. One comment went viral saying, once you see it, you can't unsee it. On X, formerly Twitter, fans were furious. This isn't drama, this is emotional exploitation. They knew exactly what they were doing. Why does nobody protect these people? Instagram was worse. Former cast members started posting cryptic stories. Black screens. Broken heart emojis. One wrote, you saw my worst day. You didn't see who caused it. Producers stayed silent. And that silence. That's the second layer. Because behind closed doors, contracts were doing the talking. NDAs so tight they could ruin lives. One former participant said they were warned, if you speak negatively about production, you'll never work in television again. Imagine going from being a nobody to being recognized everywhere, and realizing the same machine that made you famous can also erase you. But here's the part nobody was ready for. There were storylines that were never supposed to air. Not because they were boring, but because they crossed a line. One couple had footage pulled at the last minute because a therapist involved in post-show counseling flagged it as emotionally dangerous. Another cast member reportedly admitted to something on camera that producers cut, but used as leverage behind the scenes to control future behavior. Think about that for a second. What you confess in a moment of vulnerability becoming a weapon later. Fans sensed something was off. They always do. Reddit threads exploded. Why did the edit suddenly change? Why does this person look terrified instead of angry? Why are we missing context? And then came the leaks. Audio clips, blurred screenshots, text messages that were never meant to be public. One message, allegedly from a field producer, read, "We need 'em to break tonight or the episode doesn't work." Not argue, not disagree, break. That's the third layer. The emotional cost. Relationships didn't just end on camera. They ended in real life, shattered beyond repair. Friendships destroyed. Families cut off communication after seeing edited versions of their loved ones. One former cast member said, "Through tears in a now deleted livestream, they turned me into the villain, but they edited out everything that was done to me." And here's the heartbreaking truth. Once the audience decides who the villain is, it doesn't matter what the truth is anymore. Death threats followed. Harassment. Mental health spirals. Producers. Already casting the next season. Now I want to ask you something, honestly. If you were given fame in exchange for losing control of your own story, would you take it? Because that's the fourth layer. Control. Cast members didn't own their narratives. They didn't choose which version of themselves millions would see. And once it aired, there was no undo button. Some tried to speak out. Their interviews were quietly cancelled. Their clips demonetized. Their credibility questioned. Why now? People asked. Why didn't you say this earlier? Because fear is a powerful silencer. And then, the final layer surfaced. The one producers never expected fans to connect. Several former cast members from different seasons, who had never met, started telling eerily similar stories. Same tactics. Same emotional pressure. Same phrases used by producers. That's not coincidence. That's a system. A system built to extract emotion at any cost. When one of them finally broke and shared everything privately with a group of fans, the message ended with a sentence that still gives chills. "I thought the show saved me. I didn't realize it was slowly destroying me." So now we're left with the question that nobody wants to answer. Was 90 Day Fiancé ever really about love, or was love just the bait? I know this is hard to hear. I know part of you wants to defend the show you've spent years watching. That's normal. But loving something doesn't mean ignoring its damage. And maybe the most uncomfortable truth of all is this. If we hadn't watched, if we hadn't shared, if we hadn't demanded bigger drama every season, would this have happened? Or were we all part of it? So I'll leave you with this. The next time you see a tear on screen, ask yourself if it was necessary. The next time a relationship collapses for your entertainment, ask who benefits. And the next time a producer says, "This is reality," ask whose reality it really is. Because some secrets were never meant to stay buried. And now that you know, what do you think? Was this exposure overdue, or did it come too late for the people who paid the price?